Look,
And in
I
fact,
dealt with this same thing when I was talking about Last Duel with people, and they're like, "Oh my god, this original structure." I'm like, "Bitch, have you ever heard of Rashomon?"
like
And they hadn't.
Inscription getting
I mean,
super
I haven't
popular
either.
You ever heard of
makes
Rashomon? It's a Japanese
yeah,
thing.
it's like you're familiar with like the motif of like the same story told by like multiple characters.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Rashomon.
Okay.
It did that for it was the first thing to do that.
It's that mountain with all the presidents' heads on it.
It's that episode of King of the Hill when fucking Bill when everyone else talks like Boomhauer and then Boomhauer talks all normal.
Yeah, the fire station burns down.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's weird.
I
don't
love
like that
episode.
one.
It's a good
You
episode.
don't, that's like one of the best King of the Hill episodes.
Yeah, I love that one.
I don't
but-
like that one because I haven't actually watched it in a long time, so all I remember is bits and pieces. I
Like
forget
Buff Dale
that,
Gribble with the
Yeah.
flowing hair.
in-
and I
in-
forget about that. So I'm like, oh, that was weird.
So, gentlemen, we are gathered here today to bang out an obligatory category because that's how these things work. I talk about how there's visual years and there's soundtrack years, but I don't think there has been this bad of a soundtrack year since we have done Game of the Year.
Yeah,
Um,
there's I made a whole list of like trying to track down what people said was the best soundtrack, made a playlist. I think it's like almost
you
17
posted it.
hours long. I listened to most of it, skipping through when I needed to. This year had so many just generic, this is a video game soundtrack sounding ass soundtracks.
It's
Like nothing stood out at all.
It fucking sucks. I had to scrape the barrel to get my list, of which I only really passionately care about one thing on it.
I think there's actually only one soundtrack on here that I like.
But
Well, I mean, I like the other one, but like I
yeah,
would
it's like
listen
these
to
are
again in the
okay.
future.
A WarioWare game almost made my best soundtrack. I guess I'll say that.
Really like some
I don't give a
fart
shit about any of
noises.
mine.
So number 3, The Artful Escape sounds pretty good. I
I could not get in that in a game that's about
Yeah,
music.
like-
If your soundtrack kinda is mediocre, I feel like you've missed a huge opportunity.
I think that it was a good
okay.
fake Bob Dylan, and I think that like the generic space metal in the background, it's like it's fun, but that's it. I wouldn't listen to any of it outside of the game.
Yeah, the folk stuff I think sounded, I guess, authentic. I just don't really like folk that much. And then a lot of the game is you just holding down a button and like he squeedily D's on a guitar while he's running.
Yeah.
And
It sounds
even before I like maybe like the first area where you start to squealy D guitar, I was already like, okay, I'm tired of this. And if Amara had held down that button for any longer, I was going to lose my fucking
but if you
mind.
but I mean jamming with the glamour gun's cool.
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah, it's the third best soundtrack of 2021.
Yeah, couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I don't care about
Okay.
it. Ryan, what's your number 3?
I was
Uh,
getting Artful Escape mixed up with Sayonara Wild Hearts.
No, which even I at least think Sayonara Wild Hearts has a few bangers.
Yeah, but that's another game that's kind of supposed to be like music based.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like that's all just like techno-y pop. It's like if you like Lady Gaga, one might also like Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's
Mhm.
very generic pop music.
Yeah, which
And
I mean
that's
that's
okay
kind of the point.
sometimes.
It's Sayonara Wild Hearts like future pop EP
Yeah.
or some shit like that. Whatever
That's-
the
that's
subtitle is on
okay.
that.
It's kind of like
Uh,
a remix of one of them Geminopedes or something. That was all right in that.
But Brian, what's your number 3? Let's
My number 3 is Psychonauts.
sure.
Yeah, no, I think like I wouldn't listen to it outside of the game if I wasn't forced to, but there's a lot of like good attention to detail, like a lot of the rest of the game. Like you go to the mystery spot in that game that I cannot for life remember the name of.
The questionable place.
Questionable place. You go up there and it's like they start adding like banjo in there, but then a lot of like the backing track of the banjo stuff is tinged with kind of like that. You got like an Eastern flair to it,
Theremin.
like that like like mysticism stuff that this questionable place. If you had gone there, they'd probably really lean into. so I feel like it's coming from a place of like actual like artistic creativity, but I think it works better within the game than outside of the game. But it does a good job of what it's supposed to do. There's nothing like super memorable, but it's like if you go in there and you're like, oh shit, yeah, this is a good representation of what a fucking casino sounds like. 'Cause they've got like big band that shows up.
they've got that one song on the pirate radio station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a solid soundtrack at
fine.
number
It's
3.
Totally fine. Hunter, what do you have that's totally fine?
My number 3 is Ender Lilies again,
Okay.
because it's got a lot of nice.
Wait, don't tell me. I bet it's some light piano, very somber sounding piano.
Some of it, yes.
Okay.
And then
How
some like
did you
kind of
know?
chuggy metal guitars show up when the boss fights happen.
I don't remember if there were metal guitars, but there's definitely chuggy music.
Okay, well the guitars could have been made of wood. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's Chugi.
Chugi.
No, that's that wonderful 101 character.
Well, I'll look up.
Oh
the Ender
fuck!
Lilies
Did that remaster come out this year or last year?
I think that was last year.
Ah, okay, cool. Okay, cool.
I was gonna say if it did, then I'm changing my number
Yeah,
one.
then fuck, I need to go back. Okay.
Oh, that one is on Spotify. I will add it to our
Yeah, I'd give that a listen.
playlist.
That
Yeah,
game looks
Wonderful
cool. I bet I like
101s.
that sound.
2020.
Jason,
Jason, what's your number 3?
yeah, Jason, what do you have?
This is always my weakest category because I don't pay close enough attention to music in games unless it's extremely important.
Playing the wrong games.
No, you're probably right. You should recommend me some games with good sound in them. this year.
One of them will
We
come up
can't
later.
this year, but
I know
maybe
you
next
played
year.
Hotline Miami.
No, I'm
this
saying
year.
for 2022. Yeah, that's not a game from this year.
I know, but I'm just
Prove
saying
it.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Jason,
like,
if you would look here, these are all. You probably won't like this one, but yeah, any of those probably pretty good.
yeah, they didn't come out this year.
Yeah, but you wanted video game music suggestions.
I know, but I'm saying during 2022, if you come across any with good music, let me know.
Hey, I had the same plan for 2021.
Yeah,
This
but
didn't
We
happen.
told you all the good soundtracks
This
that
didn't
came out
happen.
this year.
But what's your number 3?
I don't know. Resident Evil. There was some songs. There were some sounds in it.
Sure.
I
It's
got
got
nothing.
good gunshot music.
Yeah.
I mean, it has
Okay.
some tunes. It has some tunes. They're not good.
Top 3
Would
best
you say
soundtracks.
they like
It's
matched
not
the
good.
atmosphere or something?
Maybe.
They
You
might
could have
have.
told me that game had no music in it. I believe you.
I think
like the
that
part
too, but I
where-
googled it and there is a soundtrack.
God damn.
I like Duke's
And I
dancing
listened
song
to a
number.
few songs on it. They're not very musical. It's no near a tomato.
Nothing is, baby. You're gonna be in a relentless pursuit of that rest of your life.
Except
You're
for
gonna be
Doom
chasing that
2016.
high forever.
Some might call Near a Tomato the second best soundtrack of last generation.
So moving on, let's just put this to bed. Number
Yeah,
2,
just rapid fire. They're all bad.
I'm piggybacking there. I'm co-opting original soundtrack to talk about the sound design of Unpacking, where they have
Hmm.
like 50 different noises for every item getting set down on different surfaces. It's like, okay, it's like you can set this on the tile, it's gonna make this noise, set this on carpet, bed, whatever. It's all making different noises. I also think that game, for being like kind of elevator music ass soundtrack, it's never annoying, you never get sick of it, and it's always just kind of there. But
Yeah, it's-
specifically,
Good ambient music. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to pay attention to it, but it really does kind of up the atmosphere.
it also
Relaxing.
the
It's
end
relaxing and
credit
not
song
annoying.
is incredible in the same way that the house building song is incredible.
I didn't
Um,
finish it, so I don't know that song.
Is
It's
it also
fine.
We're Not Gonna Take It, but like a rock remix?
Every time I forget that happened, and every time I take psychic damage. God damn it.
Fucking
yeah.
Wolfenstein 2, man.
Unpacking has really good sound design, and well, the soundtrack it's totally fine. It actually actively has incredible sound design. So I'm piggybacking that into this category because Ryan,
gonna-
what's your number 2?
I'm going to piggyback some of the points you just made with this game has good sound design that then they worked into the soundtrack. Inscription, I think, is my number 2. It does a really good job of like taking almost like Foley sounds or like diegetic sounds in the environment and having them be part of the soundtrack, which it's just kind of a good horror game soundtrack. You've got your droney, creepy sounds, which I'm always down for. But you can tell like who you're playing your cards against because they have like weird drippy sounds happening in the soundtrack or scraping sounds. It's cool shit.
What's
It's
all this
cool
stuff?
shit.
What's all this gunk on my music? Why is it only on my music?
Oh, so Hunter's here to talk about The Gunk as his number 2 soundtrack, I would assume.
I forgot that game existed. My number 2, it was going to be 1 at first, but I knocked it down a point because it's a remake, which it's near numbers.
Yeah, but hey, they
redid the soundtrack on that one, though,
It's-
didn't
They
it's
redid
fine.
the soundtrack,
We're
yeah, but I felt
reaching.
like
Yeah, there's nothing else to pick from this year.
Yeah,
so.
it's like we're doing our best.
I got one more, Jason.
I also have one more.
I do
I mean,
too.
I technically do as well. Whatever.
Jason, you have 2 more actually.
Yeah, what's your number 2?
Oh, is it my turn? I thought It Takes Two had some okay music-y stuff in it. I mean, that whole like attic level is music based.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And that's,
yeah,
that's kind of
that one's pretty. I do like that level.
yeah.
And it works well.
Like do it like jumping over the speakers and record players and stuff like that. I don't have a lot about it, but I thought it was good.
Okay.
Again,
I guess-
bad category.
Yeah.
Moving over to number 1. Again, shitty year for soundtracks, but this one I actually really enjoyed. This is the only like actual good soundtrack I had this year, and it's motherfucking Death's Door. That game, as Ryan described, is like Oscar bait the game in a lot of ways, but it's got a really kick-ass soundtrack. I'm not going to bother queuing up the stuff because it's too much work for this
Mhm.
category. It's going to go really fucking quick.
I liked
But, like-
the song in that one. I think it's called like Grandma or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, I
Oh,
did
that's
like that
near.
soundtrack. It didn't make it was like my number 4 because it did kind of fall into that like this is a video game sounding ass soundtrack, but it did have some good tracks on there.
It's got one track on it called Avarice. It's my favorite track on there. It's just that very good like it's not quite like a Souls game, but it's a very like melee action kind of focus game. And when you're in the fucking like zone, when you're just like in the flow and that song is playing and you're just like dodging around doing everything, it just feels really good. But like it instead of like doing like a pounding techno type thing, it's a very folksy kind of like guitar and strings bit.
Mhm.
Which I don't typically get in games like that. It's normally the what is the techno or the heavy metal or something.
Right.
And that game does a lot with like strings, guitars, and piano in a way that is extremely effective for the entire game. And I actually really like that soundtrack.
That was a pretty good soundtrack.
But that being said, it's like a number 3 soundtrack on a better year. But Ryan, what is your number 1? Is it something you actually liked?
It is. Yeah, I listened to it a lot after playing the game, like outside of it. I couldn't tell you if it works in the game because after the tutorial, the music dropped out forever. So I thought the game did not have a soundtrack for the longest time. And that's Sable's soundtrack.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's fucking incredible.
So I can only imagine how great the soundtrack would have sounded while you were driving around the world. But I couldn't tell you. But
Is that the one that's Japanese Breakfast?
yeah.
Okay.
So there's I think 3 songs in it that have like singing and stuff. I know the exact part that the music dropped out because there's supposed to be a big moment in the game where you first get your own glider and you're gliding and the song called Glider comes on, which is a really cool song. It stopped halfway through the song and then the music never came back. So that moment was ruined. So it will not show up later in this list. But it's just got a really cool kind of like ambient soundtrack in the vein of like, I'm really getting out there, but like a Tangerine Dream kind of thing where there's like a lot of like looping sounds and it's really atmospheric, but then the game also works on a day and night cycle. So the music changes over between day and night, borrowing stuff from the daytime one and the nighttime one. And it's cool. I think it matches the world really well, kind of sounding otherworldly, but also not distracting or annoying. It was
I
good shit. I
barely-
highly recommend listening to that one.
I barely made it out of the tutorial in that game, but I did like everything I heard.
Yeah, it just sounds really cool. So you probably missed the glider part, but I think glider.
I know.
on
I think
its
I
own-
actually think because it cues in like right when you're leaving the village, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did hear that,
Okay.
and it did
cool.
sound good.
I like that song quite a bit.
That was I did not play much after that point of the game, but I did at least get that far.
Cool.
But with that, Hunter, what is your number one if not near?
My
What
number
knocked near
one
down a peg?
is Shin Megami Tensei 5.
What does it sound like?
Wee wah, wee wah.
He's
And
right.
other such bangers.
It's
What's that one
got
called?
it's got that Japanese heavy guitar.
It's the same guy who made the Smit 4 soundtrack. So at least I knew knew what he was doing.
I'm glad
No,
you
Jason.
I'm glad you actually played Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did too.
It'll make part of this more interesting.
That kitty.
But with that, I'm gonna throw to Jason.
Oh, wow. My number one was Unpacking. I didn't play a ton of the game, but I played the first, I want to say 3 levels.
Oh, you played like half the game.
But no, I mean, yeah, it was just kind of chill elevatory music while you unpacked boxes. I mean, it was very fitting. I feel like almost anything else music wise in that game would make no sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want lyrics. I don't want anything any heavier than that. Like it seemed right. Like I played maybe an hour, maybe.
It
of the
should. I
game.
think it should have like a Dark Souls style, just like constant anxiety and tension kind of soundtrack.
Or then
to
like
it.
a beautiful piano thing while you're unpacking the pig.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no,
Or
it was
the
just
cool
kind of good,
Pig's
relaxing,
leitmotif's real
unpacking
nice.
boxes music.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's like it could have gotten annoying or like loopy, but you never really like notice it, but it's not really there to be noticed. It's just a nice ambient zen unpacking.
And it kept me relaxed while it forced me to put my scissors on my desk.
Yeah. Could not. You can't put the boombox in the bathroom, Jason.
It gives you an
Apparently.
achievement if you put the toaster in a bathtub. And I got it. Constantly when you try to be a smartass to that game, it already thinks of it and it gives you an achievement for it. I love it. But with that brings us to this unfortunate category to a close. Hopefully next year can be a little bit fucking better for soundtracks.
We can hope.
Maybe. But that
There's a
means
new Kirby
visuals will
game
suck.
next year, so fingers crossed.
I'm so. Oh, we'll get to what games I'm excited for later.
We'll get there. But join us next time for best story and writing, which is also maybe going to be a bit of a rough category.
What?
It's okay.
What are you?
What?
It's okay.
No.
It's okay.
I'm
This
just
was
really-
entirely a visuals year. Visuals only. No
Hey.
good writing.
It
Hey,
was just a bad year.
Hey.
I'm really excited for the games not released this year's category.
Me too, actually.
Those
I
are some of the
counted.
those are some of the best games I played this year.
I
Well,
counted. I
we'll
played
get
10
there.
games from
We're
this
gonna
year
get
and
there.
9 from not this year.
we're going to get there. But in the meantime, enjoy, I don't know, listen to the Death Store soundtrack, I guess.
Or the Sable soundtrack.
Yeah, sure. Japanese breakfast.